This is in response to an article by Thomas Frnks in Salon magazine over last weekend. Today is August 19th. And basically, and this is for my conservative and libertarian sisters and brothers. I'm asking you to consider what good can be done in the Obama administration in the last 2 years or so of the administration that will help all Americans. Things will have to be done probably without the help of Congress. And that's pretty much what Mr. Frnks' article is about. I'll sum it up fairly briefly. And that is, number one, let's invest in the Department of Justice. Let's invest in the Securities and Exchange Commission. Let's invest in the Consumer Protection Board, Consumer Advocate Protection Board, etc. And let's protect the average consumer from monopolies, from oligarchies, things that are cropping up all over the United States. And what will this do for every American? This will help every American because all of a sudden things will be more competitive. If things be more competitive, you have better quality. You have lower price. That was good for everyone. There's there needs to be a time when we need to go after things that are too big, things that are taking control of industry too much. Look at how many wireless providers are there right now? Not many. How many of the biggest banks? There's not many big banks. All the other banks, they're nothing compared to the couple big banks. That's just to name a few. Who's the richest man in the world? Well, that's Bill Gates. And what was his company involved in? Killing their competition for 20 years and then fighting governments about them being monopoly. That's basically what it was about. And then Bill Gates is the richest man in the world. All right. So the United States doing the right thing, using the Justice Department, using the Securities and Exchange Commission, using the Consumer Protection Board to help everyone, to go after these people, is the right thing to do. We need to make that investment. And as I said, to all of my conservative and libertarian sisters and brothers, this is something that will help us, all of us, in the long run. The second thing that Mr. Frnks pointed out was that we need to go after, we had a huge housing crisis. And, there were numerous people of modest means who just got killed, whose credit is shot for the rest of their life. Their investment is gone. And the thing was, let's just say that the people at the top, the people at the big banks, the people at the lending agencies, they all knew that many of these people weren't even remotely close to being qualified to get these types of loans. There was an article in the paper near where I live, and it talked about a lady who wasn't even making, I shouldn't say lady, but someone who wasn't even making $3,000 a month, got into a house for a couple months where the mortgage was $5,000 a month. $5,000. And she was only making $3,000 a month. But, something was supposed to happen. Something good was supposed to happen. Business was supposed to take off. It didn't really happen. Dang, there went the house, there went her credit, never be able to buy a house again. Thousands, millions of people who suffered from this. All the people at the top knew that the housing industry was a bubble, it was going to crash, but they had bogus loans, they had bogus, everything was crooked about this thing. And people knew it from the top on down, and they just kept on promoting it and kept on promoting it and kept on promoting it. And people got screwed. And, a lot of times average people got screwed, And, by going after this type of thing, again, Justice Department, etc., that would help so much to, yes, there's been a couple settlements, but that's those people just asking for like little slap on the wrist for nothing. That's what and they're back doing the same thing all over again. So we need some real tenacity to go after this type of thing. I mean, this just screwed so many people and hurt so many people. And a lot of people made a heck of a lot of money off of it, and they knew they were screwing those people when they signed those loans. And there was forgeries all the way through. So this is just a terrible, this is America. We're, the land of opportunity, but the opportunity doesn't mean you screw people day in and day out, so that you can make some money, knowing those people are going to be just financially screwed for the rest of their life. That's, I would hope that all of my conservative sisters and brothers and libertarians would feel the same way, that we really, really need to go after those who are involved in that housing crisis, and go after them hard, and go after them tenaciously, just as they were going after, the loans that they knew were crap. The third thing Mr. Frnks spoke about was education. And of course, the United States has started to go after some of the for-profit colleges who use government loans to get people into going to these schools. Schools suck. They don't really learn anything. They can't pay for it all, so they take out private loans with them. They're in hock to their ass, and it all screws up. Government's going after some of those people right now, and it's a good thing that they are. Hopefully they're going after them more. But even for the non-profits, some of these universities all over the country, huge universities, huge endowment, huge pay for the what do you even call the person, the dean or whatever, who's running the place? They're making boatloads of money, all over the place, and they're screwing the average and the small student who can barely get by, who has to use loans, and they have just incredible amount of wealth in many, many, many of these places. And this is something, again, what am I looking for, in the long run? A more educated workforce, a greater infrastructure, better means of communication systems, a better grid, for our energy, so we can be more energy independent. Investment in new businesses, in new ideas, so we can find out which ones are going to work and go after them. That's what business is all about. Going after the new idea, taking it to the end. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't work, that's the way it goes. You got to go back and do it all over again. And that's why we need an educated workforce. And that's why, these schools are just screwing over so many of these students that they can barely get by. And they come out and they get $100,000 loan, $200,000 loan. How long is it going to take to get them paid off? Now, again, I would like to think that my conservative sisters and brothers, would be behind this. So, in summing it all up, Mr. Frnks made a very excellent point, and I think that everyone in the United States should be behind this, that President Obama can do some things to help out everyone in the United States between now and the end of his term without having to deal with Congress, who doesn't want to do anything. And that is one, go after the monopolies and oligopolies. Number two, go after all of those scads, who just took the housing crisis to the lowest level possible. And go after those universities, even the non-profit universities, to find out how much they're spending on this, how much they're spending on that, how much they're screwing the students over, and make it so the students can go to school, can go to a good school, can learn something, and people don't have their, as they say, ivory palaces sitting around all the time. I hope that my friends, my sisters and brothers on the conservative sides will be with me on this.